when I take a step back, I'm sitting at a table full of 10x developers. Sean, Jacob, Brandon, these three guys are the best in the business here.
In this specific room.
In this room.
I'm definitely top 3 in this room.
Yeah. No, like, seriously, these are 10x developers who have built successful companies and deployed a ton of products and have been researching this stuff for years and on the bleeding edge of a lot of things. Well, as a developer, you guys are talking at like this level. I think that it might be a little bit beneficial to like go around the square here really quick and just, if you're just getting started as a developer, what makes a good developer? What things do you focus on? And how, as a developer that's kind of up and coming and getting into the space with AI, how would you look at it if you started there with the knowledge you have now?
Yeah.
Sean.
Yeah.
Well, I think time and a relentless pursuit of figuring out whatever you were trying to figure out.
Right. You just can't stop. You can't give up.
You can never stop.
No.
So for me, I beat video games when I was a kid. Like I was the kid that wouldn't stop until I beat the game. Like the only damn thing I could never beat 8-2 in Super Mario Brothers for some reason. Still pissed about it, right? But my dad was the same way. Like he beat GoldenEye on like 00 Agent, like, and unlocked all the secret levels and beat Metal Gear. Like we would sit there and beat video games, and that sort of like when I was a kid, like unlocked my ADHD thing, which is like I'm never gonna stop.
Yeah.
And so when I was in college, I found out there's some kids that can make websites, and I couldn't, and it really made me mad. And so I just went, and I never stopped. And I think that there's this like mountain you have to climb as a new developer where you don't know anything yet, and you have to like beat the levels.
Right.
And like knowing what levels to play is one thing. Like for me, it was learning web development. So I learned HTML, CSS, and PHP in some weirdly the same order because I was trying to do this whole thing, right? You know what I mean? Trying to do too much work. But for me, it wasn't any one specific thing. It was like literally understanding that you are going to have to spend a lot of time on this and think about it as an exercise of you have to win. You can't lose. You can't once you get stuck, you have to figure out a way to get unstuck. And then for a lot of, once you get a job, figuring out how to get unstuck revolves around not internalizing everything, you know, and making it your problem when you have people that can help you. I think that's the thing. But for me, I was on my own. No one helped me. Yeah. So it's just being relentless.
So I have a little perspective on it just because my son, who is taking a, intro to web development or something in college, and he hates it. He hates programming. He hates it. And I'm always just like, no, like, you should be. And he's like, I have no interest in coding. He's like, but I'm in this class. And so use ChatGPT, like abuse it. Go in and be like, here's what I have to do. And then it's going to tell you, well, you can do this code, you can do that. And he's just copying and pasting code straight from ChatGPT, paste it into his project and ask me. He's like, now tell me, does this, I'm probably going to get, hopefully his teacher doesn't listen. But he's like, so now tell me, like, where does this feel like it's not a junior, like, or a newbie trying to program, right? And so I'll kind of look at the code and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I see what you're trying to do, blah, blah, blah. I think anybody who wants to start getting, the one you just shared today, the haunted Halloween
Angry Birds,
angry pumpkin,
angry,
I think is what
Angry
it's called,
Pumpkins, yeah,
right? Is a brilliant example of this, that if you can have an idea of, I want to build this, right? And I think that for me, that's the most important thing for anybody who wants to start getting into development. Have something that you want to build.
Yes.
Because that's going to motivate you to keep going.
That's the level. You have to figure out what the levels are.
What do you want to build? And then start going and asking ChatGPT, how do I even start? And it's going to lead you down that path. And that's really where I think, because if you have something you want to build, you're going to have the fortitude to stay with it, because it's so easy just to be like, oh, fuck this, I'm done. I don't want to deal with this anymore. Yeah, I've got something I want to build. And that's been the motivator for me every time to get into development, is I just didn't have any money to pay a developer. So I'm like, screw it, I'm just going to figure it out on my own. And then, 20 years later, now I can develop.
Yeah, no, I love that. And just my own personal experience, I was banging my head against the wall doing tutorials when I was first getting into programming. I must have watched 1,000 tutorials on authentication and authorization. It never made sense to me. But what Brandon just said and what Sean is saying, the relentlessness and picking a thing to build and building it, ChatGPT can help you with that. So I go to a meetup in town where I meet with a lot of junior developers, and they always ask me the same question. what programming language should I learn to get a job, right? Well, the answer is it doesn't matter, really. I mean, to a certain extent. I mean,
As long as it's JavaScript.
yeah, as long as it's JavaScript, you'll get a job.
Yeah.
No, you could be .NET, you could be anything. What's more important to me is, to piggyback off of what Brandon just said, is pick something to build. It could matter of fact, if it already exists, it's easier because you don't need to sit there and pontificate along specifications and requirements. Go build Angry Birds again and use ChatGPT, which is what they were alluding to. Sean shared a link. I forget who did it, but it was one of the Vercel guys shared it out.
It was Guillermo.
And it was somebody who went to ChatGPT and he said, I am trying to build Angry Birds, whatever, and show me how to do it. And it went step by step. It was like 400 prompts. It took him 15 hours, or whatever, 12 hours.
400
Which,
messages.
I mean, it's a browser JavaScript game that works in
Right.
12 hours.
Right.
Pretty freaking cool, right? And my nephew just messaged me the other day. He's like, I want to start building games. How do I do that?
Yep.
I have not built a lot of games, so I cannot help him step by step how would you go build a game. But what I told him was I sent him that thread, and I said, you have an idea, pick an idea, build that idea, use ChatGPT to get you unstuck, and then you can always ask me, and I'll try to help. But this is an unprecedented time for junior developers because they can get from zero to a working product. Right. May not be perfect, right. But this is the ultimate get unstuck tool. Yeah. So what makes a good developer? Asking good questions, relentless drive, picking a problem and solving it, and then just doing that over and over again. And eventually you wake up one day and
you're like, I can code.
Wow, I know how to
But I think
do this.
Part of this goes to the kind of the pitfall I'm seeing with people adopting AI is there's this fear that they're going to be missing out on something, or that they're by getting into this, they're dipping their toes into some sinful exercise.
I hear a lot of people say, oh my God, I learned all the basics of HTML and CSS. What a waste of time. I shouldn't have done that. And it's not true.
From our
No,
previous
not at all.
conversations that is the worst way to think about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The fundamental knowledge needs to be there.
Yeah.
You might, kids, sure, they might be learning it through ChatGPT now instead, because that tool wasn't there when I was a kid. I mean,
Yeah.
I literally went to the library and took out a book on PHP.
We had
took out
books.
a book on
Actual
HTML,
books
took a
with
book
code
on
in
CS.
it. And like,
Yes, I mean, I just kept renewing it. I mean,
Yeah.
But you're using AI. The person that did that, the tenant of the Angry Pumpkins, was someone who knows stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So like the fact that he got through that, doesn't mean that he was just never seen a computer screen before.
Right,
But the point
right.
is that like if you have that fundamental knowledge, it's still super valuable. And important.
Yeah, and that's a good point to make. The sexy message or whatever is, oh, you can build Angry Birds in 12 hours. No, I mean, not really.
That's what's going on in
Right.
the clickbait headline, by the way.
That is definitely. It's so easy. A caveman could do it. Like you still have to know what you're gonna build. So requirements and fundamental like experience matters, right? How you're gonna build it. And then there's, of course, all of the things that are in the app that are not the game, right? The engagement, the messaging,
Right.
the authentication,
Right.
whatever.
All the choices.
Yeah. There is plenty of work for developers to do, and the junior developers can make real impact early on. They just have to stick with it.
Let's just think about this for a second. If you're a person that is sitting at a computer that has a high-speed internet connection, that maybe has a decent amount of computing power, that has available time in their day, you are probably in the top 0.5% people in the entire world of capable output.
Yeah.
Because most people aren't that. Most people don't have that computer. Most people don't have that time. So if you're privileged enough to be able to have an opportunity to have this and have the time to do it and have an environment where you're safe, cherish that, because you're in a place where you might get paid to sit at a computer
And get paid pretty well.
Yeah, and also don't get discouraged, because like the other side of that is like things are moving so fast, and it is a little bit probably.
To be a developer, you absolutely have to be able to get kicked in the balls and get back up every single time, because it's just, I mean, as a developer, I mean, how many times you get kicked in the balls during the day?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe 100 times, and you're just like, okay, I'm back, and you start running through it. And so, the tenacity is one of the most important things.